So let's say, for instance, they have a stroke, right? And their word finding affected. Like they know what they want to say, but they just can't get the word out. So I'll give them like strategies, like describe anything you could tell me about the word, like, or you could gesture, like let's say it's the remote, or the thing to change the channel, stuff like that. So we'll work on stuff like that. I'll give them a word, and even if they do know the word, I'll just say, okay, now just describe it for me. That way they can practice using that strategy with a caregiver or whoever they're talking to, and usually it helps bring that word right back for them.
Staten Islander News is here today with Jennifer Hansen, who is a speech language pathologist with VNS Health. Staten Island has a growing population of older adults, with 14% of the community is 65 and older, and that number is expected to grow. While many older Americans are living longer, they're also dealing with a greater number of chronic health conditions that threaten their ability to stay independent. When it comes to health, many of us are aware of the importance of regular doctor visits or having your nurse check in on you, but what doesn't always get attention is the work of rehabilitation therapists who have a critical role to play in maintaining our health and independence. So today we're speaking with one of these specialists to learn more, Jennifer Hansen, who is a speech language pathologist with home and community-based health nonprofit VNS Health. A Staten Island native, Jennifer has spent over 20 years helping patients regain their voices, independence, and confidence right in their homes. Her care is deeply personal, often spanning generations, and she brings not just clinical skill, but compassion, mindfulness, and a daily dose of gratitude to every visit. So, good morning, Jennifer. It's good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about yourself, and kind of how you came to this career path and what your journey was like.
Um, so I always wanted to help people. First, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew I wanted to work with kids. I didn't know if I wanted to do teaching. My uncle was diagnosed with ALS when I was like in the middle, like I was doing like a liberal arts type of degree in the beginning because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But my uncle was diagnosed with ALS while this was going on, and that's when I decided because it affected his speech first. So that was when I decided that I wanted to be a speech pathologist. Um, yeah. And then I went so I was at CSI. I was doing my liberal arts, and then I transferred to Brooklyn College. And I did my bachelor's in speech pathology. And then I did my master's at NYU for 2.5 years. We did two different clinical things. One semester was with children, and the other semester was with adults. So, like in a nursing home, one was in a school. And then we have a clinical fellowship here, which I did in a hospital. And that kind of like sealed the deal with me for adults, but I did work with children too, like in the beginning. I did everything, but I primarily like adults the best, like
Okay.
working with.
Awesome. So it sounds like CSI doesn't have specifically a speech pathology program. Okay.
No, I wish they did.
So, and it is a master's degree, pursuit that you have to have a master's degree in order to do it.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And kind of what do you do on a day-to-day basis? So what does your day look like?
Okay, well, because I'm home care, everything's pretty much remote. Like I'll get sent cases to my tablet, and I go to their homes. I walk in, I see, what exactly they need. Is it speech? Is it swallowing? Is it voice? Is it cognition? You know, and then I'll take it from there. Like I'll give them exercises. I'll set up the caregiver with some tips. If it's swallowing, we'll see what the safest diet for the patient to be on is. If there's any strategies that will help them, because a lot of the time, food or liquid goes down the wrong pipe, or they feel like food stuck in their throat. I'll make appropriate referrals to other doctors, like a GI doctor or a neurologist, if there's a new onset memory loss that hasn't been diagnosed. Um, yeah, so I mean, but it's a very flexible schedule, which is nice, and I get to spend time there. Like I don't have to rush in and out, which is nice.
Okay. And so you kind of said like exercises to help people to learn how to speak again. Is that kind of what you do a little bit?
Yeah, so let's say for instance they have a stroke, right? And their word finding affected. Like they know what they want to say, but they just can't get the word out. So I'll give them like strategies, like describe anything you could tell me about the word, like or you could gesture, like let's say it's the remote, or the thing to change the channel, stuff like that. So we'll work on stuff like that. I'll give them a word. And even if they do know the word, I'll just say, okay, now just describe it for me. That way they can practice using that strategy with a caregiver or whoever they're talking to, and usually it helps bring that word right back for them. Comes out finally for them. So it's
Oh,
definitely a
nice.
great strategy.
So, how long have you been with VNS Health and working as a speech language pathologist?
I've been with VNS Health for 19 years and I've been a speech pathologist for 21 years.
Oh, nice. And what do you find is the most rewarding part of this career for you?
Definitely when you see progress, when you see improvement, having a good relationship and a good rapport with the patient and the family, they're always super grateful when we're done, when we're finished, they when they see progress for themselves. That makes me feel really good and rewarding. I like to meet new people and I like to help people, so that in itself is rewarding.
Oh, nice. And do you tend to, as a speech pathologist, do you tend to have like a one-time visit, or is this something where you're building a relationship with the patients?
No, it's usually I'm building a relationship with the patient. A lot of the times, patients will come back to us. So, and because I'm the only speech pathologist, I cover half of the island. They usually get me, so it's like a rapport. Like they know they're going to get me. I already know them from before. I know what we're working on. I know their history, so it's very, very comfortable.
Oh, cool. And so now you had kind of talked about what was your inspiration to pursuing a career in speech language pathology. Would you say that that you are that you like what part of it do you like the most? Like what part of this career do you like the most?
I like to meet, I like to help people, honestly. Like if I could get someone to be able to eat better or like, upgrade their diet to something besides baby food, you know what I mean? To help people, help the caregivers too, because, I recently, my mom had dementia. And I think as I got older and, I'm dealing with my aging parents and my aging family, I could really empathize more with the caregivers, because it is a lot. And, it's hard, so I like to, be there for the caregivers, offer them, whatever suggestions I can to help them because I know how hard it is. I also know how hard it is for the patients to lose their independence. So just to be like an ear, I love to get them to smile, when I walk in the door. Like I try to make them laugh, like just to brighten up their day a little bit. Um, was that the question? I kind of got off track. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. And also you were mentioning something about like special diets, and I heard you say that sometimes they're having baby food
Well,
right now.
puree,
Like
yeah, yeah, puree, yeah.
so
It's
they can
after
only
work,
have pureed
their
food because
bodies
that's
are,
safer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well,
So
either they don't have teeth or, it's just easier for them to control. Otherwise, sometimes they chew, 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 and then they end up inhaling and it goes into their airway. Some patients have to be on thick liquids. A lot of them don't like it, so I try to come up with some strategies for them. We usually will refer outside for testing. And we do have a service that comes into the home and does like a fees in the home if the patient needs it.
okay. And so specifically with regard to home care, what drew you to home care itself, and what do you enjoy most about it?
Um, So I had my first child pretty early on in my career. So I needed a job. I needed the flexibility of the schedule, and that's what home care offered to me. It offered a flexible schedule. Um, and what drew me to home care, and I was working in the hospital, so like I started doing home care for the hospital. And the difference between the patients was, when they're home, they're a little bit more alert, like versus the hospital where they're kind of still out of it. They don't really want to be bothered. They're in the bed. They're not in their element. Versus being at home, they're in their element. They're feeling better. They're more motivated to participate and get back into the swing of things. So that was like, okay, I definitely would rather do that.
Awesome. And as far as the conditions that you treat, what are the most common conditions that you treat at this point?
At this point, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those are like the two big ones that I'll have. Mostly throughout my caseload. Then there's like, there's brain tumors, there's head and neck cancer, stroke, cerebral infarction, stuff like that. So there'll be like the aphasia, dysarthria. Sometimes there'll be some voice issues from like an intubation that would, something like that. Usually that can resolve, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they have to go to the ENT, they have to get an injection.
Right. Okay. Um, and now, so with regard to Parkinson's, we've actually done a lot of stories on Parkinson's. What are
Hmm.
the challenges that patients with Parkinson's tend to face that you would be able to help them with?
Their voice gets super low. You can't hear them, and they feel like they're screaming, but they're not. So getting them, so we do a program called LSVT, loud and loud and clear. Like I'll give them an app to practice to get their voice super loud. So it's like a visual cue, and they'll have to say ah and get their voice like in the zone. Also swallowing tends to be an issue too. So we have to come up with like the safest diet and strategies for them to use while they're eating to help them.
Cool. And so, how important is it to help someone become more independent? And what do you find that the patients express as that happens with them?
Um, how do I help them become more independent?
Or why is it important for them to become more independent? And how do
So
they
that
respond to that?
they have a little bit more involvement in their lives, and they don't feel like everyone's doing everything for them, and that they don't have a say anymore. Because a lot of the times they feel like they lost everything. Now they lost their health, they can't move, they can't eat. So it helps them to become more involved in their own life and taking care of themselves, and gives them a little bit more motivation to participate in life.
Mhm, mhm. And are there a lot of differences that you see between dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's patients in terms of how they respond to the treatment and what they need? Like their needs are different in a lot of ways?
Sometimes it's a little bit similar, like 'cause dementia obviously as it progresses could have like has a swallowing component to it. Again, Parkinson's could have a dementia component to it. So they kind of all overlap a little bit in different ways. But yeah, it depends on the patient. It really is kind of individual to the patient.
And then how do you support the family caregivers themselves?
So especially with dementia, like there's different like strategies to use with the patients when they're, overstimulated, agitated, sundowning, um, you know, leave them alone, put on calming music. I know with my mom, I used to, because she would ask me the same question all the time, and it was a lot, and I could see how caregivers could be like, oh my God, oh my God, but I would take my mom for a walk, and we would just look at everything around and talk about the things we saw outside. And that was really, it was really good. And I really enjoyed the time I spent with my mom, when we did that. And so I tell the caregiver stuff that I did with my own mom, like it's not like something that I didn't do myself, and I can also empathize with them, and just like I said with the calming music, if a patient doesn't want to do something, take a break, leave them alone for a second, let them regroup. Don't just keep forcing the issue, don't keep telling them no, agree with them, say okay, take a step back, and then go back in a little while.
Mhm. And how do you, is there a patient story or stories that stands out for you?
Now, the one patient story that I had that was awesome. I was covering the entire island, and I got this patient, and I went there like it was he was a first responder in 9/11, and he was a total laryngectomy, so he had no voice. And he was like writing everything down. So I went over there, and I'm like, oh, how cool would it be if your electrolarynx, because the doctor had ordered an electrolarynx for him to use, and It's like, how cool would it be if it came while I was here? And like literally, not even kidding, like 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. The electrolarynx was there. We started using it. He was talking. He was thrilled, and he gave me like a huge hug. He's like, "Thank you so much." I was like, "I didn't do anything, but I did teach him how to use it, and that was just like that's like the rewarding stuff when things like that happen. When they think, "Oh wow, I can actually speak. I have to write everything down," and like stuff like that is huge.
Awesome. And how do you stay positive in such a challenging field?
I do practice gratitude every day. That's like my thing. I have alarms set on my phone, like especially when I was going through it with my mom, and just a lot of things going on in my life, my personal life that you could go dark, with your thoughts, but I was like, all right, I'm going to think of three things to be grateful for every time I start to get negative, and it really helped. Like I noticed like a big difference. So now I set an alarm on my phone, and every hour I'll think of three things that I'm grateful for, even if I'm not in a bad mood. It's just it's easy to stay negative. This world is a negative. It's not, a lot of negative things going on. So to be positive, you spread positive. I don't want to walk into a patient's house and be a Debbie Downer because that's not going to help the situation.
Right, right. And what advice would you give to someone who's considering this career?
It's definitely a rewarding career. It's a lot of work, doing the schooling part of it. But once you get out there, it is very rewarding, and there's a need. There's a big need, both in the pediatric field and in the geriatric field. So um, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a rewarding career.
And when you're saying like the pediatric field, what type of patients would people be working with? Is that like
Well, it's more like
autism or?
more like school. Yeah, 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 yeah. Autism. The schools, there's a big need for it in the schools as well. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, I wanted to ask if there's anything else that you would like to add today about anything that we talked about or anything else.
Um, I think I'm okay. I think we went over everything, right?
Yep. And the information section that she gave us for how people can actually get more information, we're going to put that across the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Um, and then, because people can call the VNS Health, they can, speak with their doctor. They can also get referrals and stuff like that. And also to try to how people can kind of get involved in this career. That was really helpful, the information that you provided about that too.
Thanks.
So I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us, and it was really great to meet you today.